The demand for exorcists is apparently booming, so let's talk about demons. Hi, I'm Jason Boyette, and this is the Religiverse. Does an uptick in exorcisms mean actual demon possession is on the rise? No, it does not. But something interesting is definitely happening here. About 15 years ago, there were reportedly only about 24 Catholic priests in the United States designated as exorcists. Today, there are around 150. And despite that enormous increase, some Catholic exorcists say they still can't keep up with the number of people who are asking for help. So why are so many people suddenly asking for exorcisms? That's a really good question. So first, when I say exorcism, you probably have a very specific image in your head. You're thinking about a priest, a possessed person, maybe some holy water or a crucifix, a lot of screaming, somebody's head maybe is spinning around. It's basically The Exorcist. That's what we think about. And yes, the Catholic Church really does have an official rite of exorcism. But what the Church calls a major exorcism, and those are its terms for it, it's supposed to be extremely rare. Catholic teaching distinguishes between ordinary spiritual struggles and actual demonic possession. A major exorcism can only be performed by a priest with explicit permission from his bishop. And the Church says medical and psychological explanations need to be investigated first. And that's important because even exorcists themselves will say the overwhelming majority of people who come to them are not actually demon-possessed. Good to know. I'm Jason Boyette. I make religion news make sense. So one prominent American exorcist, Monsignor Stephen Rossetti, and he's a little bit controversial, he has said that 99% of the people seeking exorcisms don't actually need one, okay? There's not a demon in there. And when we say demand for exorcisms is rising, we're actually talking about something different. More people are approaching the Catholic Church because they believe something supernatural, something possibly demonic, is happening to them. And apparently enough people are doing this that the Church has dramatically increased the number of priests who are trained to respond to this. Now, this isn't just happening in the United States. The Philippines, reportedly, it has a huge Catholic population. It also has around 200 Catholic exorcists, and priests there say they are struggling to keep up with requests. And in 2026, members of the International Association of Exorcists, that's a real organization, they met with Pope Leo in Rome. They've been pushing for Catholic dioceses to have properly trained exorcists available to deal with what they say is increasing demand. So what's causing this? Why is demand on the rise? Well, this is where things get a little more complicated from a religious perspective. Because if you already believe in demons, well, there's a very simple explanation. It's demons. There are more demons. Or demons are more active. Or our modern culture has somehow made people more vulnerable to demons. Now, some exorcists actually make that argument. They have specifically blamed increased interest in occult practices. They point to things like tarot, witchcraft, Ouija boards, New Age spirituality, and online communities that are devoted to occult practices. Now, some Catholic experts have actually begun warning about things like AI-assisted divination, or what they're calling technomancy. This is when people use technology as a way to contact supernatural forces or to seek spiritual guidance. And from inside that religious worldview, all of this makes sense. Demons exist. There's a lot more demon activity. We need exorcists. If demons are real, and occult practices potentially expose people to demonic influence, then more occult activity could theoretically produce more cases requiring exorcism. But, and this is a big but, this is a Sir Mix-a-Lot kind of but, there's a pretty obvious problem here. We don't have any empirical way of demonstrating that demons exist, much less that they are becoming more active. You can't look at the increase in exorcism requests and conclude that demonic possession itself has increased. It's like saying an increase in reports of UFOs proves there are more aliens visiting Earth. No, it just proves there are more reports. Now, I think that's still interesting. By the way, I write about this kind of religious news and data every week in my Religiverse newsletter. There's a link below if that sounds like your thing. I do think something has changed. I don't necessarily think it's more demons. Maybe it's greater awareness. If the Catholic Church now has 150 exorcists instead of just 20, more people may know this is actually a service the church provides. Like, it is a real thing. The internet has also made exorcists much more visible. I mean, there are priests who talk publicly about demons and possession on social media. There are podcasts and YouTube channels and a whole bunch of different accounts that are devoted to spiritual warfare. And not just from Catholic exorcists, but from Protestants too. And so an experience that someone might have once interpreted as depression or sleep paralysis or addiction or trauma or simply unexplained bad luck, now you can plug that into an entire online vocabulary of spiritual warfare and demonic oppression. You can attribute those things to an external force. Now, that doesn't mean every supernatural interpretation is necessarily false, but it means our culture right now gives us a framework for understanding these kinds of experiences, and the available frameworks have changed. There's also the mental health component. Exorcists themselves will acknowledge that a lot of people who seek their help are experiencing psychological or medical problems. That may seem like a no-brainer to you, but I think we need to consider that. That's why the Catholic Church officially encourages priests to involve doctors and mental health professionals when they are evaluating suspected possession. But here's where the story gets really interesting to me. All of this is happening while institutional religion in the United States is declining. Church membership is down. Religious affiliation is down. Regular attendance is down. The percentage of Americans identifying as religiously unaffiliated has risen dramatically over the past few decades. And so you might expect that to mean supernatural beliefs are also disappearing. But no. That's not what the data tells us. The last time Pew Research asked a closely related question, 68% of American adults said they completely or mostly agreed that angels and demons are active in the world. Now, there's a huge caveat here. That survey was conducted all the way back in 2007. All right, it's old data. So I would absolutely not use that number as evidence that 68% of Americans today believe in demons. I don't think we can do that. But it does illustrate something important. Religious affiliation and supernatural belief are not the same thing. Someone can stop attending church without becoming a pure materialist. There's nothing in the world other than what we can see and measure. They can reject Christianity but still believe in ghosts, or astrology, or karma, or spirits, or some kind of supernatural evil. In fact, one of the most interesting things happening in American religion right now is that institutional religious authority can weaken without supernaturalism necessarily disappearing along with it. People are just reassembling their beliefs. And that might help explain why this exorcism story is worth paying attention to, because the headline, "Demand for Exorcists is Booming," that sounds like a story about Catholicism, or maybe a story about demons if you already believe in demons. But I think it's really a story about how people make sense of experiences they can't explain. We are storytelling creatures, and so we look for patterns. We look for stories we can tell to explain what's happening to us. And so something frightening happens, something scary. Maybe you hear voices, or you experience sleep paralysis, or your personality starts to change, or your life feels completely out of control. Maybe a doctor gives you one explanation for what's happening. Maybe a therapist gives you another explanation. Maybe TikTok gives you some sort of explanation. Maybe a priest gives you another, and maybe you assume it's an external force. It's demons. Now, those explanations are not interchangeable. Some of them have so much more evidence behind them than others do. But human beings want explanations. And apparently, a growing number of people are at least asking whether one of those explanations might be supernatural. It might be demons. So, are demons on the rise? There is absolutely no evidence that they are. There's absolutely no evidence that they exist. But are reports of demonic activity or requests for religious help dealing with it, is that on the rise? Yes. Apparently so. And honestly, that's a really interesting story, because even as America becomes less institutionally religious, we should not assume that people are becoming less supernatural. Exorcism might very well be a booming business. And if so, that's a very dramatic reminder of that. I'm Jason Boyette. If you appreciate religious news and data, that's what I do every week at my Religiverse newsletter. You can subscribe for free using the link below.